But hey, how about you were telling me some interesting stuff about Getter?
Yeah, so this was very interesting, and I know for those who watch the Joe Rogan podcast, when he had Dr. Peter McCullough on first, and then he had Dr. Malone on second, Dr. Malone has been completely banned off Twitter. I want to say he's banned on a number of other social media, but I know Twitter for sure. And so he said, "Well, and currently I'm on this other social media site called GETTR now because he was disallowed from being on." And so Joe more or less gave GETTR an endorsement saying, "Yeah, hey, I'm moving my stuff over there, and you guys got to check this out." So you had over an explosion of people.
I never saw Don give the prayer hands. That was probably when I was fighting that demon.
Appreciate you, Don. But anyway, so overnight, GETTR blew up, and over a span of a few days, it gained. I want to say it gained more subscribers and more users on its platform. Let's say Twitter and Facebook did in their whole first.
I checked it out, and I was gonna say ironically, but there's nothing ironic. But funny enough, like apparently I made an account a while ago, like way before. I think it was like when certain people were talking about it here and there. I'm like, oh, I'll see what Getter is, and signed up for it and stuff, and just never used it. And I just thought it was funny that it just exploded. And I'm like, wait, I've had this, like, I checked this out at one point. Let's sign in and see what's up. And yeah, it just like off.
So the interesting thing about GETTR is it's been billed as a Twitter kill. But this is supposed to be essentially the antithesis of Twitter. This is like the conservative version of it, where and they maintain that, oh, this is where free speech lives. This is all about free speech. But yet they've banned people for conduct off of their platform. Like, you know how Twitter will ban certain people for infractions that didn't even occur on their platform. Like even YouTube did this with
The algorithm.
Well, no, it isn't even an algorithm. Sargon of Akkad, in one of his podcasts, he leveled an accusation at some people who were acting just like buffoons, and he used a racial epithet, and he said it on YouTube, but that was where you had the whole issue where Patreon, they essentially cut his ability to make money, and they disallowed him to use it. And it wasn't even an infraction that took place on Patreon. It took place on YouTube. And in all honesty, I don't even see it as being an infraction. He called the people like he. And so,
Was it a word that rhymed with one of Pooh's friends, Tigger?
it does. It's also, if you say the word vinegar really slowly, it rhymes like that.
Okay.
But that was the word that he used, and Sargon got totally dumped on it, and that is what spawned Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin to say, that's it, we're done with Patreon, we're own space, think spot. And they, from there, were able to get the ball rolling on other sources of income generation for those who are inside the social sphere. Well, Dr. Malone, he was banned off of Twitter because he was shedding light on the reality of the coronavirus as a whole and on vaccinations and what they can.
Is that like the mass hypnosis? Or
Yes,
sort
the
of.
mass
Comment
formation.
that he made. Okay.
Yep, psychosis.
Or psychosis.
And so he was shedding light on that, so banned off Twitter, but he's on GETTR. And so on GETTR, just like on with Patreon, you have people that have already been banned for activity and conduct that didn't take place on their platform. Which it's like, okay, how can you violate someone's terms of service if what you are in what you're being accused of having done didn't take place on said platform? You can't. You simply can't do that. And so one guy named Nick Fuentes, he's an odd cookie. He's in his 20s, has some very, very different thoughts on how the world should operate. Watching him actually on Slightly Offensive with Elijah Schaefer, he was talking on that show, and then later on Elijah's other show, You Are Here, about how he personally doesn't like to see blended families, i.e. he doesn't like to see mixed race relations. He doesn't like to see
Who was this again?
Nick Fuentes.
Is that the latest you are here that he was
not
on?
the most recent one. It was
I'm trying to picture the face.
like a month and a half ago. It's funny because listening to the guy, I thought he was in his 30s, maybe 40s, but I think he's 25.
A young
25.
whippersnapper.
Yeah. And his ideas, they're pretty radical. Some of the things that he says, it's like, oh, okay, I could see that being a possibility in this day and age, but a lot of it is like, ooh, boy, I wouldn't say that out loud. Anyway, Nick is already banned off GETTR, and to my understanding, it was for conduct that didn't even take place on that platform. So that was one issue that people are looking at going, okay, why is Nick Fuentes banned off GETTR? If you guys are saying that it's supposed to be a haven for free speech, then why is he being banned? And the response that the CEO, there was on Timcast a few nights ago, they actually had the CEO of GETTR on there to more or less clear up all the misunderstanding. And so Tim was like, hey, so explain this. Why are people banned off your page if you guys claim to be in full support of free speech? Then why is this happening?
Humpty Dumpty looking fellow.
And yeah, that neck beard.
Don't worry, I will insult him.
So anyway,
I used to be fat.
the guy, his response back was that when Nick pressed him on it, he's like, well, you know, we do have our own, essentially our own codes of conduct on the website, much like Twitter has their terms of use and Facebook has their terms of use. They're like, you know, we have our own terms of use as well. And so Tim, he presses him and says, okay, we'll explain what those are. And so the guy, he starts going into, well, we don't allow hateful speech or hate speech.
So completely the opposite of what they're saying that they don't.
Yeah. So then Luke,
Which can be defined, I guess. I mean,
yeah, both Luke and Nick press him. Tim press him on it. They're like, okay, so what do you mean by hate speech? And it was no joke. It was almost the exact same definition that Twitter. Or Facebook would apply to hate speech. And so
hate book.
Tim and both Tim and Luke are like, so you're more or less doing exactly what Facebook and Twitter do. And the guy is still maintaining, no, we don't do this. We are completely 100% about free speech. And Tim goes, no, you're not, because if you're going to remove people for hate speech or speech that you find disagreeable, then you're not at all for freedom of speech. So the guy, they went back and forth for a while, and he gave no good reason why they had removed Nick Fuentes' ability to even be on site. And then there's a number of other people. There's another gentleman, or there's a number of people from, I guess, what you call the Aryan Brotherhood, or the actual Ku Klux Klan. And I guess I don't know if it's their nickname for members of that wretched club, but they're called Groypers. And
what?
They're called Groypers, I guess.
Groypers, like just a fancy way of saying gropers?
Groyper. I don't know if it's a fancy way of saying gropers, but Groypers.
Sounds fucking retarded is what it sounds like.
So anyway, so on GETTR, they won't allow any, I guess, hateful, what's the word? Hateful organization to be on there. One that is based or built around a racial system. And so he more or less says, okay, if you're not letting the Groypers on, then why would you have to disallow then people who are from the Nation of Islam? Because we know that they're waging jihad against people, and we know that they are definitely for ethnic cleansing of a sort when you get down to the actual bylaws of their own religion. And so he kind of hems and haws, and he's like, yeah, we'd have to.
Oh man,
we'd have to. Approach it, and I don't really have all the answers right now. I wish I had a better answer for you.
Don't have all the. You're the CEO, right? Or no? Is he the creator?
I want to say he's the CEO. Anyway,
you got that is part of being a CEO, is to have the answers like ready to be like spew it. Like that should almost be a script.
Yeah, a lot of hemming and hawing, but suffice it to say, and people were going on to the site, and they're like, okay, if this is a site that is supposed to be the bastion of free speech, then I'm going to see what racial slurs I can actually say on this speech and see if I'm going to get flagged for it.
Ah, testing them waters.
Yep. So you had people going on there, and they were punching out some hard R's, and they were
Nice.
tagging on whatever else that they could come up with, and getting flagged and banned almost for it.
Bunt.
Yeah. So you have that going on there, and it's like, okay, well, this clearly, this is a speech that you can disagree with, and it is definitely disagreeable speech, especially when you're bemoaning somebody's race and you're calling them by a slur that has brought any untold amount of pain to them psychologically, or just remembering a family member who has to deal with that. But it was disallowed on the platform. So right there and then, Tim and Luke are both like, yeah, so you don't allow free speech. And the guy still maintains, yes, we are all about free speech on this platform.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally, Tim, he goes, I don't think you have an argument here, dude. I'll be honest.
Is that when he said I call bullshit?
Yeah, he goes,
I saw that,
honestly,
that portion of
I
it.
don't think you have an argument here, dude. It sounds like bullshit.
There we
And
go.
It absolutely was. And so what it really boils down to is they actually have seemingly a more strict set of community guidelines than Twitter or Facebook do. And they're still pretending as though, oh, we're the number one place for free speech. We're the place where you can have these different ideas and you can grapple with each other and have these dissenting arguments about the political sphere. And Tim and Luke are both kind of looking at each other like,
Doubt.
no. And then Ian actually jumped in on him too, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Like, Ian, he took that guy to task, and I'm like, based Ian, welcome to the conversation here. And they drilled this dude, and at the end of it, there was literally nothing that this guy was able to put forward that made it seem like this was going to be in any way the way it's been described. So a lot of people in the chat were saying things like free Nick Fuentes and based Tim, based Ian, based Luke, get them boys. And I was calling out the guy as well, saying like, I don't know, this is complete crap. This guy is full of it. There's nothing, there's no truth to what he's saying here.
You know who that guy reminded me of? Because I've seen so many like caricatures of him now, like floating around. He reminds me of the shrink in Office Space that hypnotizes the guy, and he's just slowly sweating like, and then he dies. That's what that guy reminded me of.
Dude,
Was he sweating really bad?
I didn't see if he was sweating or not.
I just pictured, because, dude, that guy is like, Humpty Dumpty could, sue him for
all the king's
for
horses
stealing
and all
his
the king's
identity,
men
because that's what that
couldn't
guy
hold him back
reminded me
together.
of.
He actually reminded me of that fat opera singer in the movie Mr. Deeds who goes, genius, genius, genius. And
I've never seen Mr. Deeds.
Oh, man. Man.
That's crazy in how you brought that up, because I literally watched the clip of when the butler like whaps his foot
with the poker.
and like stomps on it and stuff. So that's funny on how you brought that up when I was watching a scene of it.
Rule of threes is going to pop back up at least one more time in this conversation.
Yeah.
Actually, Kylie sent me a definition of groiper. So here's what a groiper is.
Okay.
There's a cute little Pepe there.
Dude, that's an awesome Pepe.
So it says groipers, sometimes called the Groiper Army, are a group of white nationalists and far-right activists, provocateurs, and internet trolls who are notable for their attempts to introduce far-right politics into mainstream conservatism in the United States. Their participation in the 2021 United States Capitol attack and the protests leading up to that, and their extremist views. And then they say key figures Nick Fuentes and Michael Malkin? Or is that
Dude,
Michelle Malkin? I think it's Michelle Malkin.
Did you see that clip floating on Twitter about those guys who? It's that video of those guys. Anybody who does not realize that those guys are feds are fucking idiots.
Oh,
but it's those guys saying whatever their stupid slogan in, and then it's like, yeah, fucking sing Heil for that. Like, one, feds. If not, like, clearly, like, anyone who takes that seriously is an idiot.
It's like, y'all go to the same hairdresser or what? I see the same haircut, the same pair of shades.
You would think the
same
feds would
khaki
realize
shorts.
on how, like, terrorists dress, but
Yeah, you think it's almost like they stood around and were like, hey, so do you guys feel like insurrecting today? Maybe we'll go have some insurrection punch. Yeah, how about we all just go get
punch.
Let's all go get rowdy at the Capitol. It sound like fun. Yeah,
Yeah, boy.
And we can go over to Tanner's house afterwards and pick up Bryce and get pancakes. But so that was the gist of GETTR, and it really seems, and I'm gonna say it is the opposite of how it was built and how it has been getting built. And so a lot of people are already like, yep, I'm not messing around with GETTR, and people.
I deleted my account and uninstalled it, mostly because, and I think this is the problem with alt tech to begin with, is that's great that the idea is there, but one, you still got to you still got to walk into the enemy territory. Like, you still got to do it, because because you're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to, like, part of the fighting is actually to go on enemy territory. That sort of thing too. The other thing I feel that, again, what the old school conservatives need to do is they need to get on board with this idea of supporting companies that are literally trying to counter the leftist infestation on the MSMs and big tech and stuff like that. So I just don't understand why these people don't try to, like, endorse or, like, help donate to, like, try to make this a bigger thing, you know, sort of thing.
Bigger than you, if you can. And
well, I know why some of them do, is because they're rhinos and all in bed with each other, so that's part of the reason.
And so this was interesting because you look at their business model. It's like, you guys, you're doing the exact same thing that all these other social media giants are, only you're telling us, hey, don't believe your lion eyes right now, and the guy still kept maintaining, no, this is the #1 place for free speech. So I want to say it was the following day they had the creator of Gab.
Yep. I'm on Gab. Are you on Gab?
Not yet. Kylie's telling me that we're echoing.
I
will sit over a little further. It's probably just because I've been talking with my bass.
Well, do I need to turn down your thing?
Because turn your microphone a little bit.
I did adjust your gain.
Oh, so maybe
offline.
Maybe bring my gain down.
Yeah, I'll bring it down some more.
But anyway,
or maybe you have to turn it down on your actual mic. Talk.
Kylie's my impassioned hate speaking.
Okay, I mean, you're in the green. You're not in the yellow. Like, you're in the max green. Is that all right?
Yeah, that should be fine.
That should be fine.
I can always project.
Okay.
But anyway, so they had the creator of Gab came on. He was actually also on with Elijah Schaefer as well, on Slightly Offensive, and it was a really refreshing talk to hear him on Elijah Schaefer, because Elijah, he's like, okay, so he talks about GETTR, and Elijah was really the one that I saw that was really getting down and holding GETTR's feet to the fire with regards to, hey, if you guys claim to be for free speech, then why am I seeing all these people that are disallowed on your platform? And so he's talking to the creator of Gab, and the guy's like, dude, he goes, I'm not making this. I didn't make this to try and get rich here. I'm literally a guy in his basement. You know, I have a family. I have kids. I live out in the woods. He goes, I'm in my basement right now, like, or I was in my basement when I made this thing. He goes, this is literally a place where you can bring your ideas. And so
that's good.
Elijah says, okay, so tell me, what are the rules? What are people not allowed to say on there? The guy says, well, you can't call for immediate violence. You can't threaten somebody's life on there.
Isn't that pretty much just? Isn't there an actual, like, Supreme Court ruling on that sort of thing? Because that's basic for anything.
Yeah, well, and that's the extent of where,
well, that should just be an obvious.
Yeah, that's the extent of where First Amendment goes. Like, hey, obviously you can't call for immediate violence on somebody, and you're not allowed to go on there and organize a violent event to go and bring grave bodily harm and destruction to a city on. So he says, yeah, we don't allow threatening speech on here. You can't dox people, and that, you know, it's you're not allowed to what did I say? No immediate calls to violence,
no
threatening
gathering
people's lives, and no doxing, and no trying to organize a violent event, like no trying to organize a riot on here. But that was largely all that's disallowed. And so he says, yeah, that's it. And so Elijah goes, okay, so what if people got on here and start dropping hard R's? And he's like, yeah, there are people on here saying all kinds of crazy stuff. He says, that, there's people on this platform that say terrible things about me, and they're still on here because this is a place for free speech. He goes, I may not like it. Yeah, I don't like it, but I'm not going to stop somebody from being able to have their free speech. He says they can get on here and they can complain about whatever. He says, and they do. They get on here and they say the craziest things, terrible things, but they're allowed to do that because that is the nature of free speech. And so it was a great talk, and it really painted Gab in a much more favorable light than GETTR, because this guy was upfront about it. He's like, look, we're not going to be banning people for speaking their mind. You can say racist things on here. You can say whatever you want, provided that you don't threaten somebody's life, you don't call for immediate violence, you don't dox somebody, and you don't try and organize a riot. He says, what about groups getting on there, like say, you have like the Aryan, I'm paraphrasing here, but say you have the Aryan Nation. They're like, hey, any other groypers on here? Where's my groypers at? He's like, can somebody do that? Like, yeah, they can. Okay. And I believe that they don't allow terrorist organizations like ISIS and all that. But
not free speech.
Right, not free speech.
Nope, defund them.
But there are those people that are already calling for violence and death and extremism.
Well, I think there's something to behold when people will stand up for not the violence and death stuff, but for hey, as long as you don't do this or but hopefully it sounds like, and that's one of the things that with YouTube and stuff like that is they've created algorithms to handle that sort of thing, and the algorithms don't know, like, can't analyze. It's like, well, is this a false claim or stuff like that? But it sounds like this guy hopefully will, like, there will be like actual people where if there's any reporting and stuff, it's like, okay, let's actually look into this and make sure that what they're saying is true and not a bunch of garbage.
Well, and he actually talked about moderating on the platform. And he said, he goes, look, he's like, I don't want to have to sit here and essentially be everybody's mom looking over their shoulder. He says, we have our, a group of people that do moderate what is said on here and, make sure that it's in keeping with our stated ethics and our stated allowed and disallowed areas of conduct. He says, but largely it's the community that does it. I think he said it's over 90% community moderated.
Over 9,000.
Or it was a figure close to that. It was in between. It was either 70% or 90%, somewhere in there. But he said it's community moderated, and they're not allowed to simply go on there and if they don't like what you say, they can just ban you. He says, they may remove certain comments that they find impertinent to the topic at hand. Then he gave an example. And he said,
Fuckfutter.
I guess I can't remember his exact example, but it boils down to something like this.
Oh, damn it.
Say you're a part of a group which is talking all about building model cars. You come inside there and you start throwing in links for UFC. Well, that doesn't have any business being inside a group that's talking.
That's just spamming.
Yeah, it doesn't have any business being in a group that's all about model cars. It's like, hey, bring it to where it's appropriate. He goes, yeah, that's the kind of moderating that we have done by the community. But even then, he's like, you can say whatever you want to say. So I think you're going to see Gab end up
that's good.
Being the...
I've been on it since Elijah mentioned it. And it's good. They need to get I think they don't have a phone app just yet.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. So GETTR does, and Gab, they were taken off Apple.
Yeah, that's right. I heard that,
Play.
yeah.
They were taken off everything. And so... he said, chances are, if you're not allowed on any of these things, you're doing it right. So I guess...
so bullshit.
Yeah.
But it is true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they're working towards building their own app, if you will. It'll probably be when we have to go directly to their website and just download it from them.
Oh, the APK file?
Yeah, kind of like how organizations like TaskRabbit will send you a specific link to go and download that app at whatever mobile device you have.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not backed by by Apple. They're not backed by Windows. It's not like with Parler where Amazon pulled the plug on them. Because no, we built this thing from the ground up, so we don't have to answer to anybody, and nobody can tell us what to do. And so Elijah, he was asking him more questions just on the nature of what inspired him and where the idea came from. And so he said, look, for me, this is about legacy. He says, I'm not trying to get rich on this thing. I'm not making this to make money. He says, but I'm hoping that my kids, when they get older and they essentially get into the social media sphere, he says, I want them to have a place where they can have a voice, where they can have free speech, and where they can say what they need to say or want to say. And I think that's a beautiful way of, or a beautiful motivation for creating said platform.
Very nice.